Hey guys, quick intro for the podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the Rezbt-S Podcast. It's available on Spotify and on YouTube. To my subscribers and listeners, you could always like and share it, reminding you to help me grow the podcast and help me grow the channel. It's gonna be there. I'm doing 2 episodes a week now, so I upload it or just really freely share it. Yung schedule is Thursdays, Sundays. Minsan mas maaga, minsan mas late. Usually mas maaga na. And I just really wanna share a quick tip for podcast listeners. You could use PIP mode, another device, Spotify, or keep it in the background while you do other things, digital things. You know, you could put it on another tab. So I'm doing all this to improve your podcast listening experience, not just for RSP, but just to get introduced to the technology as well. I'm doing sort of a tech sort of language ballet to my podcast. It's not so much the chismis types, not so much the emotional types, not so much the gamer music types, because sawang-sawa na ako sa mga ganun, to be honest. And if you like my voice or you just like listening to these kinds of stuff, I'm still doing my monologic series though until episode 100. So after that, I probably will invite more guests and invite more speakers. And that's the plan, you know. I mean, that's a pretty obvious plan naman. So again, thank you for listening, and please do follow me on YouTube, RSP Hub, or Safety Take. Hey, what's up? Rez here. First off, I just want to thank my listeners and followers and subscribers sa Rezbt-S Podcast Hub. I'm doing this new podcast thing, which is long form recording of voice, of people talking, of dialogues, monologues, of interviews, of kahit anong pwedeng pag-usapan sa ilalim ng sun. I'm doing this because I'm exploring the technology for now, and I'm exploring what I could talk about as a person. And for the benefit of listening, I know it has a lot of benefits. I know also that some of you are getting bored with the typical kind of content. So this is my way of sharing my ideas, sharing my thoughts freely, and also processing my own. Thank you for listening, and I just want to let you know that there's also a YouTube channel and a Spotify show link that you could follow. You can also put it just on PIP mode or on another tab or on Spotify and do other things while you're listening to any podcast actually. On my podcast, I'm still doing my monologic series until episode probably 101 before I start doing interviews and dialogues and like whatnot. And it's pretty obvious that that's the plan. So I just want to put in this quick intro part to thank everyone who's been supporting me. And there's going to be more improvements. So I hope you all know that you are welcome in this digital space. You are welcome to fiddle around, and anything that you do is just like, share, even if you copy the stuff there and spread it around. I don't really mind, you know. My point is just to be innovative. My work is just to be innovative and really share around the newest technology that we're experiencing. It's a lot of people criticize podcasts because, you know, naman sa Pilipinas meron talagang brain drain na parang the way we kinda simplify new things in our language is pabobohin pa sila, diba? It's called gorilla proofing in the tech world. So when we gorilla proof stuff, it doesn't necessarily show you the complexities, the behind the scenes so much. I do want to make like sort of a behind the scenes kind of thing about it, but it's gonna take a while. I mean, mas madali pa rin mag-podcast kesa talagang ipakita yung tutorial mode kung paano ginagawa yung thing itself. But I know you have an idea of that. Again, I just want to remind everyone to be grateful, and you know, to just feel that I'm also feeling the same thing. You being part of my new podcast and new way of expressing things and new trip, diba? Wala lang, I just really want to start it that way. And then, so without further ado, here's the latest episode of Rezbt-S Podcast. I'll see you guys. Welcome to the Rezbt-S Podcast. You're still listening to me. I'm still doing my monologic series. I'm having more fun now. I have three cameras in front of me, and while recording, a mono type feed of audio. I usually just get down into it because I don't have a lot of time to waste. I am very experimental with the way I create my content. I sometimes kind of wanna not be experimental anymore. I get bored, I get really sort of nayayamot ako talaga. At sa pagkayamot ko, ang dami ko nang naisip bilang isang aspiring public intellectual. And sometimes I play around with the way I express my things and I try to just have fun around in my own sort of spaceship, so to speak. I just press the follow button there para yung audio ho is following, the visual of the audio is following my voice as I record. Some of the things that I talk about in this podcast are really technical. Hindi naman sa pinapabobo ko, pero I'm sort of one of those guys who really lived in kumbaga, I call myself, and I'm reminding this myself right now, that I am a studio rat. And out of learning, out of following a lot of innovations in the audio world, I ended up sort of exploring more things, like this thing over here. If you're looking at it from the feed, you could see it. But if you're just listening on audio, I was just playing around with my OP1, which is a standalone synthesizer. And it's really one of those things that if you didn't get into it or any sound of it, it's just one of those things like Daft Punk, it's just one of those things like um, a common new technology na parang you should know that the way history works, especially in music, especially in other innovative industries, is like one time or another, merong may inventong box. You know, may invento tayong box eh. Tapos yung box na yun, i-explore nyo ng mga pinakamagagaling na producers. Usually the richest also. And what they really are into is not naman to explore, or of course they want in on the technology. They want they want to be first in the technology, but like it's more of like where can we go with that? For example, in Star Wars, let's put it in a Star Wars kind of mode. Diba? You watch Boba Fett in Slave One, or you watch The Mandalorian in Ship, and they get this sort of ship upgrade, right? It's sort of like that, really, for techie people. Parang you get a sort of upgrade. You figure out that everyone in the empire, so to speak, has this upgrade anyway. So why not use that? Diba? Parang it's the way things work anyway. So what I'm really trying to say here is that even in technology, may ceiling eh. May ceiling eh. And yung pinakamadaling pag-explain nito, yung nauntog, yung untog feeling lang, kumaga sa Tagalog, Tagalog na nga eh. Yung untog feeling ba na, yung ceiling, pag naabot mo, ang feeling nun is like you can't really, kahit ipilit mo pa yung utak mo na makalagpas pa doon sa kaka-upgrade, or make things faster, make things harder, it's really not gonna go anywhere from there, The same way that I feel like using a camera phone to record a selfie camera is just like a 5-year technology, and it should be doing its thing. Kumaga, trabaho yan ng telepono na to eh. So, kung trabaho yan ng telepono na to, and it should be doing that always, and I should figure out an efficient way for it to, do its thing. The idea of having machines around as robots. Like, let's say this was a robot. This thing that I'm holding right now, for the audio listeners, I'm holding my phone, still recording while on a tripod. The usual thing, a lot of vloggers do this. Start out with that. It's a thing, right? It's one of those things na lagi namang ginagawa, lagi namang nakikita. And the thing about that is, like, as annoying as it gets, sometimes
yung 2 or 3 years pa lang of always doing that, daily doing that, it gets sort of boring, you know. I could edit the shit out of this phone video, but I choose to do podcasts, you know. I choose to practice my skills of video editing in order to just keep sort of like an animated sort of kind of like show a more honest way of doing things. And the more honest way of doing things is really showing your setup, showing what gears you kind of use, what kind of activities you are into, what kind of systems you're checking. Like for example, right now for the audio listeners, once again, I'm checking the battery of my laptop because before bago siya mag-init, I wanted first to expend the battery, diba? Parang kumbaga, sometimes I also forget that, you know, we're so plugged in that I'm so plugged in that I forget that I have energy storage, you know, that I'm in this human vessel that I'm experiencing right now. There's stored energies. To be honest with you right now, I'm still on my fast. I don't feel like hungry, like I'm hungry. I haven't ingested anything except for water. And this has been my practice as an artist and as a healthy person ever since, you know, like ever since I started learning about intermittent fasting. I know for a fact that the body doesn't really need to eat 3 meals a day, guys. Come on, right? The body has its own kind of way of regulating itself, has its own kind of way of eating up. And, you know, it's not naman that I'm body shaming anyone who doesn't take care of their body. It's just this little bits of sciences that little bits of not even sciences. Baka sabihin mo ng yoga practices pa nga even that na hindi laging kailangan sinusunod yung what we think is the norm. For example, if you ever heard that the norm is to eat 3 times a day, that's because binibaby ka, spoil ka. Baka hindi mo na nalalaman, you know, dinadaan ka sa pagmamahal, 'di ba? Yung pagmamahal ng pagkain. And however you kind of wanna see that, hanggang di mo pa naiintindihan na pwede ka naman talagang pakainin ng pakain at mabubuhay ka naman at mabubuhay. Ang kung okay ka lang dun, edi okay-okay lang tayo, 'di ba? Pero I'm not there. To be honest, I'm not there. I didn't come from that culture. I'm sort of a part of the culture of men that are hard on themselves, are hard and very consistent and very sort of driven by other men, very also driven by inspiration from, you know, how cute women are, how sort of silent some things are about things. And I don't mean to be super profound about it, pero minsan pa happy-happy ako sa mga topics na kunwari hindi ko naman talaga alam. But it's just that I don't wanna go deep. I don't wanna go outright dipping on a language na kung saan mapapamura lang naman din ako. Or mapapa-curse lang ako, I don't know, it's just like, baka hindi ko lang makasundo yung sarili ko baka hindi ko makasundo yung sarili ko pag masyadong ginawa agad yun. So what I'm really trying to experience right now is create more dimensions of this activity. I recently found out, makati lang yung likod ko guys, sorry. Naligo naman na ako. Super honest. I kind of want to flex like my thin arms. What I really, I guess, nang na-fixate kong point ngayon is when I learned that apparently theoretical physicists came up with a way to rule to decide and prove that the reality we live in, the space-time continuum that we live in, can be measured by protractors and rulers, and you know there's degrees to it, there's linear stuff to it, and me being fixated with that, though I haven't really seen how the physics works, how the math checks out, diba yun yung ano dun eh, yun yung mentality ba dun, or parang yun yung jargon dun din, how the math checks out. It's really like, kung di mo naiintindihan bakit tayo nagkaroon ng technology na ganito, parang tayo umabot sa point na to, you kind of have to to figure out or backtrack a bit. And it's like what I'm saying is you might be a floater. Don't be a floater. If you're a floater, you're like a cherubim, yung parang may ano ka lang sa float ka lang. So anong mangyayari pag pa-float ka lang, may mga taong may mga digital guns, yung mga pa-pew. So pag binaril ka nila from your habitat. So what I'm kind of really saying right now is like this balance toxic, sabi nila toxicity, sabi nila ano, this balance of parang this cultural hodgepodge of na tinatry sa inyo hindi masyadong what do you call this? Kumbaga dun, I've been seeing, to be honest, I've just been seeing a lot of Attack on Titan squamine memes, right? Yung ginagawang Filipino setting yung mga Attack on Titan. Ginagawang ano, alam mo, pinaparelate tayo ng kunyari, you know, those squamine stuff. It's been around. What I'm trying to say is you have to realize that there's a lot of things that the older Filipinos, older men, older ganyan, they kind of don't want to publish it in front of you right away. Meaning that if you have been nakakita ka na naman ng sobrang daming plot lines, so diba? What I'm trying to say is the plot thickens. Always the plot thickens with any regard. That of course you always start with the political, because with the political nandiyan na yung kumbaga yung basic stuff eh. Nandiyan na yung basic lolo na ganito, may ganitong posisyon, ganyan na yung basic lolo na may ganitong mga Chinese. By the way, news to me, it's news to me that how do I say this? Friend of ours, a family friend of ours, has just is fast becoming a father soon. So it's very great news. I think. Speaking of politics, political families, and like idealizing yourself into like a future, what I'm really saying and always saying in this podcast is before you could study yung mga tech, yung mga worldly sort of Silicon Valley trends, Elon Musk kind of shit, podcasting news and stuff like that. Before you could really get to there as a Filipino, you kind of want to really set up your own idealized story. Kumbaga yung plot ng season 1, ayusin mo muna, diba? Intindihan mo muna yung season 1 because yun yung sinasabi nilang, and I just remembered this recently for the base Tagalog theories. I already said that slogan hell yung Filipino language, diba? Slogan hell. Ang ibig sabihin ng slogan hell, na pinalaki kayo sa mga slogan na, kunyari, hindi na nga, isasabi ko na nga na, sabi ko lang kanina, sariling atin, diba? Okay, tangkilikin ng sariling atin, for example. It's slogan hell because it's not really what's been happening. Kunyari, when I was growing up, it's always been like that. Sabihin nila, tangkilikin ng sariling atin, blah, 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 or any variation of that. 2K Pinoyism. Right? Any variation of that is sasabi nila, yun do yun. But it's still, as you grow up, kind of like, you figure out that's just marketing, man. That's just like, who came up with this? Diba? Is it, did the Department of Tourism came up with this? When I was growing up, people like I'm pretty sure it's like Dick Gordon, right? Na para one of the better intellectuals of our time, came up with It's More Fun in the Philippines. You could correct me on that, by the way. But that's what I meant by slogan hell. By calling the Filipino language a slogan hell, it coming from slogan hell, and now also yung meron pa isa pang linguistic label, yung 2K Pinoyism, that explains away what we grew up with. Sabihin mo ng pakanayan ng mga dilawan or pakanayan ng mga not so endowed intellectual political thinkers, it's really one of those things that we have to pin down na. It's sa English world, they call it a demarcation. Like you kind of have to mark that down as the point where you have learned what it is and gorilla-proof yourself from there. Once you gorilla-proof yourself from there, then that's the only time you could be human. That's the only time you could say that sana all naiintindihan yan, sana all, diba? That's what you kind of want to think. That's kind of wanna. That's really where I want to go at. And if you're in the background, hopefully listening, going, right? hopefully listening and like saying things like okay yan okay ang sarap pakinggan yung mga ano mo discoveries mo it's really like for me I'm really just reiterating what I've already said. You could review it on on the other podcast. You could review it on what I've said already. Ba't saan ko ba ito lalagay? Dito na lang para tatlo. Ayan. Medyo ano lang kasi naiilang ako sa on na kukuha niya yung this part. But you get what I mean? Sorry to be distracted that way. But what I mean is like bukod ba dun, challenge ko yung sarili ko to be really multitasking. I really love multitasking, by the way. But to multitask just on this topic, because I'm typically on a podcast, I go from this topic to this topic to this topic. Minsan, to be honest, minsan on my monologue, which is like a BTS thing anyway, it's like sometimes I go from high to low or low to high, depending on my trip. And kung naiintindihan mo na yun, it's really the efficiency of that is me pretending that I'm not having a hard time, pretending that I'm having fun in front of the camera, practicing this sort of plasticity in my brain, my performative brain, in order to later have more work for myself. Again, which reminds me of that my favorite line in a recent movie called The King, where in the night, sabi niya, I've seen so many people, I've experienced, and I've watched many men invent work for themselves and they end up just killing, you know. And in the digital world, this is, for example, this is exactly how we kill time, how we kill, how we make our demarcations. So going back to that 2K Pinoyism discussion, what I'm really trying to say with that 2K Pinoyism discussion is hindi ba parang sobrang namang napaka gasgas na. Kung hindi man gasgas na, parang tuwing pinag-uusapan siya, lagi na lang ang idea is our only metaphor for it is yung kalye. Hindi naman lahat ng political theory is galing sa kalye. It's actually like representative of the current psyche of people. And if you don't kind of get there, if you don't use politics or political news or political blunders or news about political families, if you don't use this as sort of a teaching opportunity to figure out or to have a lead in the social behavioral science sort of data gathering of things. Let me repeat that. Kung hindi mo ginagamit yung mga balitaan para sa pag-aaral ng socio-political or social behaviors or anthropology or kung paano gumagalaw yung kwento ng mga importanteng tao, mga importanteng figures, mga importanteng bata, or mga importanteng mga kind of ideas, Yeah, the more that you get lost, the more that you are lost in that sort of woods of what you think is real or what you think the illusion of it all, diba? Parang now that you don't want ito, for example, hirap ka na nga sa hirap ka na nga sa religious talks, hirap ka na nga sa Pinoy talks, hirap ka na nga sa postmodernism, sa art talks, diba? He kind of want to deny these. And I was like this for a long time, And when I was a child star, when I was a matinee idol, I was like this for the longest time. I didn't know what I want, man. Do I want this girl? Do I want this lyric? Do I want this art form? Do I want to go back to just drawing things? It's really kind of like that for me then, and I totally resonate with that with kids. Na parang it's fun to watch, when they don't know what they want. As I grew up, they sent me managers to figure out what I want, or like, the people who look out for me, they send me their best people. And then sometimes I get to just, naalala ko pa, I was in a radio show much like this. And although, let me just put this on record. I was excited to excited to talk and get interviewed again by Rico Robles because he's one of those great really hosts that DJs and also audio guys, right? I remember just being super real that day. And one of the artworks that I was working on really fucked up that day. And when I got news of it, it was in the radio station. It's not in, kumbaga, nasa labas ako, I was in public. And I almost threw a fit. Literally, I almost threw a fit in the station. Alam mo yun, kumbaga, those were kind of the suppressed na stories of me being in behind the scenes, and hindi naman sa nagwala ako or something. It's just like it bothered me for the rest of the performance, and they kind of knew that it's kind of my way of saying that when it gets to my project, or when it gets to working for me, for example, for working for that project kasi it was the sophomore album, yung Someday Dream holographic, around 2016-17. And now that I'm just recalling this naman for basic purposes, nare-recall ko lang na talagang even at age 25 or 26, I really had my own standards na. Meaning, yung standards ko, I kind of want them consistent because I study myself, I study what I do. Diba? I record, I sort of log stuff. So, if other people, like in your life, for example, let's make this more relatable. Kung ikaw nakikinig ka, and since nalalaman mo na in-English ko lang naman talaga, pero, binibase Tagalog ko lang naman talaga. Pero yung pinag-uusapan ko talaga is yung kasabihan nga, or parang teaching na kung alam mo na yung tama para sa'yo, kung ano yung gusto mong preference, exactly why you put that down is because you want to go from there. You want to get that logic. You want to get that value. You want to get that consistency. Just like in baking, for example. If nakuha mo na yung recipe for a cake, or this kind of cake, if nakuha mo na yung recipe, let's chillax a bit. If nakuha mo na yung recipe for this kind of cake, for example, and you figured out that this recipe was wrong. This recipe was wrong, right? Oops. Then you kind of want to move on from there and really not want to go back, because in your nagpapaka-perfect tayo, diba? We're searching for what things will create more and more better and better ways of creating things. Sometimes expression kasi, ito naman yung problema ko sa expression. Kasi yung mga uso sa atin yung mga banong mag-express, yung mga kabanuan ng mga endorser na bading. Diba? Parang yung mediocrity nila, it doesn't apply to it doesn't apply to, and I'm sorry to be ranty about this, right? It doesn't apply to men, parang it applies to bullshitters, to be honest. And I'm sorry for the language, really. I really am. It applies to parang, kumbaga nakita niyo na ba yung mga memes, yung mga kabataan na Pinoy na lalaki ngayon is babading-bading na. Yun na yung effeminate na talaga. Talagang pinalaki na ng mga Koreans, diba? Kumbaga, yung failure ng Filipino, ng tatay, ng kahit sino na, or failure, or openness also. Yung openness ba na yun, it has resulted, ito yung result, pinapakita na sa atin. Ito na yung mga dancers. And if you're friends with these guys, I'm not judging, I'm really, to be honest, not even sad about this. Natutuwa nga ako na parang, sobrang accepted na pala yung ganyan. Sobrang accepted. And I'm really just, what I'm saying is like, I'm results-based. Where in our history did we make these decision A, B, C, that we could postulate that could probably have resulted in creating a culture like that, because that's new culture, right? In the same way that podcasting, recording, and self-publishing, these are new culture. these are new digital cultures, publishing then also these sort of visuals, content, parang kunyari. I mean, and I'm sure it's just like I'm just going back to the rant na parang, alam mo yun, pare-pares tayo nasa grade school, meron tayong mga alam-alam na kanya-kanyang, kanya-kanyang, what do you call that, memes and visuals. And, I take it for granted even to myself. Parang, sometimes I take it for granted na, damn man, it takes a while to process culture, right? It takes a while to kind of it's the culture shock. Habang patulin yung mga bagay, yung culture shock, it takes a while talaga. And how you kind of wanna battle that, how you kind of wanna experience more is to gradually battle it also, or not battle it, parang ipigilan mo rin, diba? Or bibigyan mo yung sarili mo na bigyan ng chance to put it on an educational or ilapag sa table, kumbaga, to study the calf, to study the to study the dead thing, right? Kumbaga, if kill mo na yan, aralin mo muna bago mo ilibing. And coming from those words now, maybe what I'm trying to get at, especially dahil ganito ako magsalita, dahil marami sa atin ganito magsalita, marami sa atin talagang ganito mag-isip, hindi lang nila na re-record, hindi lang nila nakikita kung sino yung mga katulad nilang ganon, na kayang may capability, may propensity to make that a natural thing for them, diba? Kasi may trabaho ka kasi 'di ba, nakabuntis ka kasi alam mo yun, you fucked up with your company, now they're fucking you over, right? Now they're working from your leads, and that's the way life works, right? That's the way kind of and that's the way also people converge, 'di ba? Na parang malalaman yan sa tono mo as a speaker, malalaman yan as a speaker, as a vlogger, as a content creator, malalaman yan sa tono mo, matatalino mga tao, bro. Matatalino yung mga content creators, diba? If I call out, if I've been calling out content creators, it's not because I have hate for them. It's actually out of respect even that I know that kahit konti lang yung marinig ko from that sort of any level content creator, because I resonate so much with them as a creator, as a creative person, na naiintindihan ko when they thank the Lord, naiintindihan ko when they are just grateful, naiintindihan ko when they kind of wanna collaborate or kind of wanna. I got here because of skill. And that's the more important expression of things na gustong marinig ng mga tao Sometimes people want to hear the positive reinforcement, right? The version lang, hindi naman because it makes them feel good or it makes them feel nice or it makes them feel like they can speak English now or like mga ganyan or it makes them feel like may pangpalag na sila dun sa nililigawan nila. Naiintindihan ko rin yun, but like for me, why more people are tending to demand positive reinforcement kasi nga and I talked about this with my best friends, is like may nakakasanayan ang lahat ng tao. There's in our language, merong madali sa Tagalog, pero there's gorilla proof in tech. Now, the great divide, you could say, is the the skill factor, the technology factor na minomonopolize ng mga kumpanya, tinatago ng mga mason, tinatago ng mga kung sino-sinong kesyo marunong daw sila, for any purpose, whatever, for any even political reasons or budget reasons, budget na lang diba? Wala ka namang budget, libre naman yung content. libre naman yung content. Pwede mo pang gamitin, 'di ba? Nandiyan naman yung pangalan, malalaman naman ng iba kung saan hahanapin yung, 'di ba? Ba't ka matatakot ngayon na ipagsiwalat, ipag-share kung outright mismo yung mga gumagawa, sinasabi na nila, pwede itong i-share. Pwede itong i-share. This is public information. This is like a practice of public intellectualism, 'di ba? Na hindi naman porke nasanay kayo sa mga kanya-kanyang storya, kanya-kanyang chismis, doon na kayo maninirahan. Parang ganun yun eh. And it's one of my, to be honest, just for the record also, one of the things that I have been going for in my art progression. I worked with a lot of people who also think this way. Yung parang titawag na lang machismo, di ba? Na problema daw ng, ganito ng ganito. I don't even know why I do this, to be honest. But like, I see a lot of rich people doing this din kasi. What I was saying, I keep distracted by the camera. Yung machismo, inaral namin yan eh. Inaral ko yung pagiging, just being able to talk about machismo and how it evolves, how it relates with bossism, what kind of results it creates. And I soon figured out, with enough research, with the right tools, with the right agents, that agency rather, not real agents, but with the right way of expressing agency, which is what makes things happen, causation. With the right kind of like that, nalaman ko na machismo, at the end of machismo, or chismosa, or like masculinity, toxic masculinity, mga ganyan, at the end of that, I think is a path, a fork, na either mapupunta ka dun sa nakasanayan or sa bagong traditional. Which is confusing because I used base Tagalog words. Yung nakasanayan, meaning old Tagalog na parang traditional na. Okay, that's one path. At the end of machismo, or at the end of chismis, at the end of bossism, is the another path. Yung which is like the new world, na tatawag na lang new world order daw. Right? What I mean by just that is any culture demands of you to come up to a branch, to come up to a fork. Just like in life, where, for example, in my own experience, I'm always at a fork multiple times in my life as an artist, as someone who practices and studies technology with art. And I'm not saying that, I'm sure, meaning iba natataasan sa ganung pag-uusap. It's because you're not surrounded by artists, or maybe baka first time mo makakausap talaga ng artist. Para sa artist, wala lang naman yun eh, diba? Parang kumaga that's the base thing, that's their pleasure eh. Yun ang pinagkukuhanan nila ng trabaho, yun ang pinagkukuhanan nila ng sarap sa buhay, yung being able to practice art, being able to like, create demand for their thing, for themselves, diba? Parang ginagawa nilang drugs nila yan eh, yung pag-art. So when I talk about art, it's my way of sharing na in my 15 years of practice, I can totally admit that I come up to na nabubunggo ako and I totally find myself when I ask about the next thing. Do I go for this or that? This or that? This or that? It's a fork. And if you've seen this meme, if you've seen this, you come up to a fork. But sometimes those two things also lead to the same path, right? Or, just for the benefit of like being, I'm smiling, by the way, for the audio listeners. I'm expressing unhappiness with myself and concepts. My mood is in generally not at all expressed by, a flat out static photo of my face. Hence, you have to really, and kahit sa'yo naman sa'yo na rin mismo, you have to really study the way you animate yourself, the way you express your own thing. and the way you record it and ganyan. Coming back to my example of how I was, I found myself in multiple times in my life deciding between the fork. And then, kumaga, hindi naman once in a lifetime na parang, not all life decisions are like the biggest decisions. we, uh, we're very Asian about that still. Alam mo yun, parang hindi naman lahat ng, of course, you could be intense. You could be kind of like that person na, but as ang power tip ko lang dyan, gawin mo na yan habang early 20s ka. Early 20s ka, even as a teenager, gawin mo na yan yung mga intense ba na, intense na decision making. Because there's no part in no part in your older life where you could feel the same. Sa Tagalog, hindi mo na mararamdaman yan ulit. To be honest, you will just feel parts of that. You will just be gifted by the remembering na parang ito yung parang bumabata ka parang pabata ka lang ng pabata kind of feeling. But if you're still bata, if you're literally still kind of young, you can feel it in your heart. You know in your heart that you're freaking better than all these old fuckers. Sorry for the language again. Nagsasorry naman ako diba? Parang normal lang naman sa mga Pilipino yun, nagmumura talaga sa atin naman talaga pag nagmumura, lahat ng mura, same level lang. Bad words are like the same level kind of thing. And it's my way of like, keeping it more of like entertaining for myself. Usually, di naman din ako nagmumura pag depende sa kausap ko, diba? Pag, kung gago naman talaga yung kausap ko, gago magtanong or gago mga tuwiran, kailangan mo talaga. Alangan namang di ka diba? Alangan namang hindi ka makisali dun sa or hindi ka magpa-apekto dun sa kagaguhan ng may alam, diba? May alam din naman yung mga yun. Minsan they're also faking it. At the most honest points of my being though, this is what I express really, the sarap and the reward of feeling like an accomplished artist at age 28. I don't need to prove that to a lot of people, but I do share about it. You could search up Someday Dream, Lewin, the collectives I've formed, the people that sort of you may see or not see getting inspired from, or still continually getting inspired from what I do. That's the point. Like in my previous podcast, previous episode, I really this is the better expression of it. I really wanted to pin that down also na I'm at the point where my work, I figured out that my work is to inspire people. My work is to keep being that subconscious voice that blocks them from just thinking the wrong things all the time. And it's just sad this way that a lot of guys, boys, young girls, my generation or even yung mga older generation na alam mo yun, mga parang hindi nila na-realize na nagiging salot na sila salot. Yung salot, yung parang, kumbaga, grasshopper, like, kung yung grasshopper, naubos niya na yung damo dito, lilipat lang siya, ubusin niya naman yung damo doon. Kung wala naman nagdadamo doon, minsan ang gagawin pa niya is like, matalino na siya, nakakapagsalita na siya. Tumatalon-talon na siya and like, nambubuli na siya ng mga langgam. Diba? Yung grasshopper, may alam pa yan na ibuli yung langgam ba? Alam mo ba yung mga ganong ugali? Yung parang kunyari, langgam ka naman pala grasshopper ako diba? Parang may ganun pa kumbaga sa mga insekto, may level din, diba? Pero sa usapan ng pagpapakatao, malayong-malayo na tayo, bro. Kasi yung pagpapakatao, hindi na natin mahiwalay from using live machines. Live machines that record us, listen to us, live machines that know every move, record every move that we take, live machines that alam mo yun, very tactile na and once pag binild mo pa sila, pag ginawa mo sa kanila yung A, B, C, you kind of have those connectors, you kind of have those knowledge of how to connect this and make this work with that. Modular. Diba? Make things modular, make the skills modular. For example, kunyari, marunong ka na magbenta ng taho, di dapat marunong ka na rin magbenta ng tofu, diba? Parang logical din, diba? Hindi, nagbebenta ka ng taho, tas wala kang bentang tofu. Yata pwede yun, diba? O kung nagbebenta ka ng asin, tapos wala kang bentang itlog. Yata, diba? Di yata Marunong ka magbenta ng ice cream. Marunong ka magbenta ng ice cream. Pero di ka marunong chumil. Right? This is the annoying side of me, man. That this is even myself. I don't mean to be self-sabotaging but for me as an emotional being also, this is the annoying side of me. Like what the fuck, man? How do you come up with these profundities? Bakit napakatalinhaga mo sa pagsasalita mo ng Tagalog? It's because I learned it. I learned it from the best, yo. I learned Filipino from my masters, right? My masters are Filipino as fuck, right? And the way I kind of wanna theorize that right now is, na ngayon na sinasabi ko na I'm coming up with a base Tagalog theory of everything, and it's a chance for the Tagalog to prove ourselves, sort of, to prove that we can integrate, diba? Meron tayong alam na string theory. Naniniwala tayo dun sa progress ng scientifico sa ibang bansa. Kaya natin silang intindihin and break down what the fuck they're saying. We're not just like farmers. We're not just like pera mukhang pera lang. Alam mo yun, we're not just like jeepney riders. We have the lasers too, no? We kind of understand their politics. We understand the politics na galawan dito. And then we kind of put it we set it aside. May schedule naman yung mga yan eh. Meron naman yung mga play, diba? Kumbaga, yan ba yung favorite mo na Netflix? Ang favorite Netflix show ko, yung kasama si Sean Bean. Favorite Netflix show ko, yung lagi may subtitles. All I'm saying is, if you like what I'm saying, if you like my drift, then, alam mo yun, nililiko-liko ko lang naman talaga. Tapos, I'm trying to experience the G-force, kumbaga, so to speak, in this cockpit right now. If you're part of this cockpit, you kind of feel like you're Baby Yoda, or you just, or nag-aaral ka lang for, alam mo to, parang, marami kang kausap diba? Gusto mo magkaroon ng impact. Gusto mo matutunan paano gagamitin yung vocabulary ng mga Tagalog para magkaroon ka ng sense of leadership, para magkaroon ka ng sense of estratehiya, diba? Maintindihan mo yung mga teknolohiya, mga ganun bang, parang mga ganun bang way of exposition, a way of reiteration, ang ibang pinakakalaban pa ng ganito is like, yung bang parang aggressive mitigated speech, let's just call it that, diba? Aggressive mitigated speech is like, yung pag natatalinuhan na sa'yo yung tao, sige na, ikaw na, yung ganun. Siya na, diba? Existential expression lang naman yun. But for thinkers like me, kumbaga, kung isang buwan ka ng ganyan, diba? Parang lag ka na diba? Isang buwan ka ng, natutunan mo na yung sana all, diba? Isang buwan kang sana all ngayon. Natutunan mo na ngayon. I'm not saying that that's you, diba? But I'm saying there's people like that around that's you. Tito mo, ate mo, minsan ganun, diba? Diba mga chiaks. Mga chiaks na naliligawan mo, nakikita mo naman sa feed, ganun sila magsalita Ganun sila pag ganun yung reasoning nila, ganun yung pangangatwiran nila. Ano yung right way for you to not get distracted by that? Ano yung right way for you to be hard on yourself and still at the end of the day win against that? Kasi ano ka niyan kumbaga sa project mo, ikaw yung team leader. Meron kang mga leader number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Si number 5 or si number 4, kunyari, ambisyoso si number 4. Uunahan ka niyan, may team meeting kayo, diba? Alam niyo yung mga galing ganito. May team meeting kayo, alam niya yung meeting niyo sa Saturday pa. Mga Tuesday pa lang, sa bahay mo na siya, o kaya kinukulit ka na niya, diba? Parang, sige guys, sasabihin mo diba? Ngayon naman, 1 week is like a big chunk of time na. Alam niyo yung mga style na, guys, papamiting ako sa Sunday. Ito naman si number 4 na ambisyoso. Kukulitin ka kunwari kasi bayaw mo siya o kaya parang ganun. Parang may personal kayong galawan. Kukulitin ka muna ng personal kunwari. And then, sasali na siya dun sa magiging pro siya bigla. Tuesday pa lang. Tuesday pa lang, bro. Parang, sa Sunday pa yung schedule ng team. Mga ganyang galawan ba? I'm not saying it's wrong. It's excitement. It's excitement. It's like, it's passion, you know? It's aggression. It's testosterone. Pwede mo na sabihin testosterone, di ba? Lahat naman tayo may balls. Diba? Kahit yung mga babae, minsan magsalita sila, meron silang balls. I've been listening to a lot of Israeli content. Not a lot, but I came upon like some Israeli content. There was this woman with like a really deep voice. You know, any woman with like a really deep voice means two things: that either that they're really sexually active, horny, even, or that they have practiced this sort of gut way of speaking, and it's really hard for women because the stereotype for women is like whimsical, diba? Parang hi, hello, oh ganyan. Parang they kind of use that voice as a man. You know, people. You should be aware by now that women use that voice to make you feel in place, make you feel welcome. And they do that. They do that. We do that also as men. Diba? Parang kumbaga natutunan na natin yung, kung lalaki ka, natutunan mo na yung kung paano ka ginagawang bading ng mga babae sa paligid mo. Diba yung jokes nga ng mga nakakatandang kalalakihan na as they get more surrounded by women in their lives, they kind of like pick out your pagkalalaki. Yung habang tumatagal ka ng tumatagal with these women, ang nangyayari lang talaga is, I don't know man, like mas lalo lang silang nagiging lalaki. Mas lalo ka lang nilang ginagawang babae. And the next thing you know, after you live with, and this is a common Filipino movie plot, diba? Yung parang, tumira kasi ako with maraming babae. Tapos parang, in order to fake it out, to survive that, is magiging bading-bading ka muna kunwari. Bading-bading ka muna kunwari. Okay naman yun, gets ko naman yun yung plot. Also now, coming from there, my line of questioning is, from there, where do we go from there now? Diba? Ay, mga bading, may solution ba yung mga bading? O punta na lang kayo lahat sa New York? Diba? Punta na lahat kayo sa San Francisco. It's too fucking late. Pero diba? I mean, ganun ba yun? I'm pretty sure, you know, I would, the more that I, you know, talk to more types of people, women, men, maybe transgenders or I don't know, people, like, the more that I get to practice this mix, this hodgepodge of culture, the more that I get to experience that, I think, the more that I'm excited about that, then for me, mas lalo lang ako nagiging open sa idea of intellectualizing that, gathering that data for everyone to see, for everyone to, our default thing shouldn't be to shame people when they're the trending onomatopoeia. If the fat people are trending onomatopoeia, they've always been, man. There's no wala namang kakulangan ng matataba sa mundo, especially sa Pilipinas. Ang dami matatabang Pinoy, diba? Parang ano ba yan? Tuwing nagiging trending ba sila, yun lang ang way natin para pakita ang mahal natin ng mga matataba. Malamang mahal yung mga matataba, diba? Saan ka ba nakakita ng matatabang cheap, diba? Laging matataba. Yan, mga mataba eh. So, mataba yung utak. Malamang mataba rin yung utak, mataba rin yung puso. Diba? Kitang-kita naman na mataba eh. Pag mataba, di yun na yun, mataba na yun. Di na yun yung parang, pag mataba, body shaming na raw yan, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, it's just a trend. It's just a trend. And the more you kind of demarcate from that, the more you kind of, ito, tapos na to. Sige, move on na natin. Then, we are into now talking about acceleration. Paano pa papabilisin? Paano pa ba natin gagawin na mas maging mabuti pa? Kung nalalaman na natin na maging mabuti tayong tao, paano pa natin gagawin mas mabuti pa? Paano ko papagalin yung recording ko? Paano ko ipapakita na mas honest ako pag nakikipag-usap ako? And this is the way that I really speak to myself and how far you are from being able to unlock the way I speak to myself. Ang nakapag-unlock lang ng ganitong private life speakage ko when I'm talking to myself or I'm really making my mind work is when I'm in a creative space. So the people who have taken breaks with me, the people na nakakayosi break ko, or the people na salamuha ako in a creative space, that's really the part na na-appreciate nila yung ganitong way of thinking ko. Okay. So, I don't, I don't want to overextend it, but like what I'm saying is that I do want the full-fledged expression of this way of talking na maintindihan nyo about me as an audience, diba? I think this is more an audience sensitive. This is a really audience sensitive sort of work. The more that I am more sensitive to it, I'm having some difficulties over here. The more that I'm more sensitive to it, I think the more that I can practice it for other people. And then more people could practice it for other people. Because I know that's the way, consciousness works. When you are able to share it freely. Check. All right. The more that you are able to share it freely, the more that you use technology to record it or just put it out there, parang mas masasanay ka rin to to enjoy the things that you like on your own. For me, it's really like that. For me, it's really like, how do you create your how do you make your own habitat better? If like I'm a goldfish, right? Let's say I'm a goldfish and I kind of want to really express. Di naman sa may tinatago ako eh. Parang kumbaga, I don't want to be sharing about what I watched. I don't want to be sharing about what happened between me and my dad, wala naman talaga, minsan wala naman talaga nangyayari. Parang it's so peaceful. It's so like it's so peaceful is my word for it. It's so kind of my word for it is serene, diba? Sometimes it's so serene eh. It's parang you have to be, it's so contentful. Yung wala ka na bang, maginhawa lang yun, maginhawa. Diba, maginhawa lang eh. So, if I'm talking about that, it doesn't mean that I should be bored with that. It's still, there's still something there that I could explore, diba? There's still something there that I can make part of my reality and your reality. Because if I am teaching about postmodernism or versus the possibility of thinking with others, the possibility of all this love can be spread around, and there's nothing else to do with that. It's just that I'm finding more ways to be more efficient about it. Diba? Parang ganito na ako magsalita, ikaw naman, ganito ka na makinig. Diba? Kunyari, o kaya habang mas naaaral mo yung base Tagalog, nagkakaroon nga tayo ng idea ng kung ano yung ginagawa ng sa tropes. Yung pag study ng tropes, yung act. So, usually naman, kahit naman sa anime, kahit naman sa mga plotline, may mga acts eh. May mga iba-ibang tropes. May iba-ibang act. Diba? So, the more we progress, the more we work on that, then it's easier. It becomes easier and easier tech-wise. Now, ang gagawin naman ng mundo is gagawin niya, papahirapan ka naman niya ng papahirapan by adding different factors that you haven't really taken into consideration. Okay, so now, what will happen from there is I get to compute more, I get to think more, and I get to perform more. I will end there for now because I'm having some technical difficulties, or I think naiinitan na yung laptop ko or something like that. I don't know. It's really the systems are failing quite a bit. So I kind of want to save it from this point. And in behind the scenes lesson dyan is like you really have to max out. You have to know the limit of each machine, diba? You have to know the limit of each gear. You have to know the. But at the end of the day, you still have to save it, right? You still have to save it because if we're gonna be results based, if we're gonna want to study kung ano yung epekto nito, then it's part of it. Maraming salamat for joining me in this Rezbt-S Podcast episode. Guys, I'm linking the send voice link sa Rezbt-S Podcast Hub. If you want to send me a voice message, you know how to do that on Messenger or ano. Just hashtag RSP it with your voice message. And I'll try to re-record it and react to it on the next episodes. So umabot ka sa point na to, just send me your practice. Sabi mo sa akin, ito na yung final. Kung ano yung final, lagyan mo hashtag RSP. And then that's gonna be your way of being able to be part of the show. I will react to your audio. And if you want, you could be part of the show. You could be as honest. You could write it up a bit. You know, the easier way would be to write it up a bit, parang scripted. Syempre, you don't want to be sending me audio that you don't mean, right? So parang kumbaga ganun lang din. So parang send me an audio via the Anchor app or via any messaging content creator thing. Keep it short and sweet, maybe 2 to 3 minutes would be great, and I will react to it the way you want me to. If you ask a question, then make sure that you're asking a question. Stuff like that. That's gonna be easy. Matalino ka naman. Again, thanks for joining me in this part of the show. I gotta check on what's happening with the computer for a bit, but rest assured there will be more episodes, and it's gonna be more fun. It's gonna be more. I guess. Di naman sa mabigat, diba? Di naman sa mabigat. It's gonna be. We're gonna progress with this. I'm gonna really work on this, and my heart is really in this podcasting technology now, and I'm taken by it. I'm taken by this. So if you kind of want to join or have other friends or have other loved ones join the trip, the quality, then this is the way we're going. All right. Thank you so much. Rezbt-S Podcast out.